All right, it is May 20th, 2015, and namaste. My name's Tim Halloran. I'm an astrologer from Savannah, Georgia. You can purchase a reading from me at the link below to support future forecasts. And it is a Mercury retrograde, it's Gemini season, it's about to rain here, so the time pressure is on, and there's so much to do, such little time. So much to say, such little time. And we may be feeling that pressure cooker a bit this week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it apart. First, we're going to talk about the astrology that's going on this week. I'm going to kind of give the mundane energy that we're going to be confronting and dealing with, and the mundane recommendations to this. And then towards the end, I'm going to get more into my rant, and we're going to talk more about the deeper ramifications of what Gemini actually is and how I think we need to be kind of getting a deeper understanding of what Gemini is this year, this time around. So, Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury turned retrograde officially on Monday. And this Mercury retrograde is going to exist entirely in the sign of Gemini. So this is a kind of stereotypical Gemini Mercury retrograde. In particular ways, you know, it gets a reputation for communication breakdown, getting our wires crossed, technology malfunction, traveling and scheduling issues, etc. And these are stereotypes. It is not the end of the world. We don't need to hold off planning. We don't need to hold off living and breathing during a Mercury retrograde. However, we can anticipate to confront some of these challenges because it's about learning, it's about growing. What is Gemini? What is my mind? How do I communicate? How do I rely on technology? And how might these things best change? How can I revise these things? How can I make my own language, my own speaking more improved, more effective, more clear? And of course, the way we learn about these things is by sometimes confronting issues, challenges, breakdowns, which cause us to learn, to grow, and spiral upwards into better and better forms of understanding, of communicating, of using technology. All right, so there's a lot of positive that comes with this, even though we can say there are certain challenges. My challenge with this is to try and slow down and talk in a way that's clear enough to be understood, because the energy is speeding up right now. We're leaving Taurus season. Taurus is a slower go at your own pace sign, and we're entering Gemini, which is the juggler. There's so much to do. There's so many little things that call our attention, and it's like we've got to keep it all moving. We've got to keep it all together. We live in the 21st century. It's a very breakneck-paced world out there. And the key with all of this is to remain ever flexible, ever intuitive, and get that bird's eye view universal perspective, as we're going to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about the energy of this week. On Monday, the week kicked off with the new moon in Taurus. It was at 28 degrees Taurus. Last week we talked about putting a lot of intention into that new moon, and we can still put intention into it this week as we have the waxing full moon into its first quarter phase. This is an intention forming week. And the intention with that moon being in the new moon in Taurus is we want to have steadiness. We want to have security and sanctuary within ourselves, because now things are going to start picking up and getting a little bit more exciting, we're going to say, throughout the summer. And I like to say that it's best to see our feelings that might be coming up in our stomach, the kind of nervousness and anticipation. Let's call it excitement. Let's call it excitement rather than stress or worry, because words like stress and worry have a really negative connotation. And you know what? Rather than saying we're all going to be stressed out this week, let's all be excited for all of the wonderful things that are happening at ever-increasing rates of time. Okay, so Monday the moon moved into Gemini. We're getting a little bit of a foreshadowing of the Gemini time early this week. Today, the moon has entered Cancer. And the moon will enter Leo on Friday, move into Virgo on next Monday. Okay. What's also going on is the sun will enter Gemini tomorrow. Gemini season officially begins tomorrow. We also have Venus forming an opposition to Pluto tomorrow. And then the next day, that's Friday, the sun is going to form an opposition to Saturn. Okay, so we have some challenges that we can say, and these are creative challenges. Where there is tension, where there is opposition, this is asking us to form a bridge. This is asking us to solve problems on a level different than which they were created. This is creative solutions. And where we encounter challenges, we must require flexibility. So, Gemini. Gemini is opposite of Sagittarius. We're going to talk about this Gemini-Sagittarius polarity and the importance of keeping it in balance. Because Gemini is the left brain. Gemini is the function that breaks apart, that dissects, that labels, and makes sense of us in relation to the rest of the world. Our experience, our reality, fundamentally relies on this function in order to exist, in order for you to be an individual person living in the world. We must have this left brain that is dissecting, that is breaking apart, that is analyzing and making sense of the world around us. Gemini. This is why it rules language, it rules communication, it rules these little bits and pieces of information and how we send it back and forth between places. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is Hermes, the messenger of the gods. What he does is he takes bits of information and runs it in between dimensions. That way the whole universe can make sense of itself. Now Sagittarius, on the other hand, is the right brain. This is a diffusing nature that is merging with everything, that is one with nature, one with everything. It has this universal type of understanding. This is why it's intuition. Intuition does not happen within time. Inspiration, intuition just happens. It's like we're struck by lightning. It does not even happen within a fraction of a second. We have a realization that occurs outside of time. That is Sagittarius. It is not coming from our linear, discerning left brain. It is coming from our connection to the universe. So when we are born, we are all born as infants, and we are born into the universal perspective. It's called the oceanic perspective, where everything is one. And there is no difference between you and your mom and the lamp on the table and everything else. It is all one. It's all you. There's no distinguishing. As we begin our experience as individual human beings with consciousness, the first thing we do is we start to dissect and digest the information that is coming to us from the outside world. That is necessary for us to exist as human beings. So the left and right brain are totally both our friends. However, most of us are to the point now where we understand that the left brain has been overhyped, overemphasized, and overdeveloped. We're going to sit through the last paradigm. And so there are some issues with Gemini that we're going to talk about. And one of those issues is if you have an overdeveloped, over-rationalizing, over-discerning left brain, which all of us do coming from collective history. What happens when you over-rationalize, you over-discern? This is called worry. This is called stress. When the cogs in the machine start spinning too fast and overheating, this is called worry. We need to balance this left brain with the right brain of Sagittarius, okay? And the way I can describe these two perspectives is it's as if we are all human beings in the maze of life. And we're kind of moving through this maze the same way a rat might be trying to find a piece of cheese, and we're all trying to get to that place. And we got some ways to go. We got some corners to turn, and we got some stuff to figure out how to get there, and we might run into some dead ends. And this might be a week that we can anticipate meeting some dead ends. However, our perspective determines a lot of how much we get freaked out by this whole maze of life process. Because let's look at it. You know, Gemini, the perspective of Gemini is being where you are in linear time. It's existing in your separate self as it exists separately in time. And this is not a problem. I'm not one of those people that says you should kill your mind. I'm not one of those people who says you should kill your ego and merge with the universe, because that's the same as denying your human experience. We don't need to deny our human experience and the fact that we are in this maze and have these challenges and are trying to figure out these problems, we're going to say, you know, challenge, solution, that's part of life. However, and there's a giant ant on the camera, however, what we could use some benefit from right now is the Sagittarius perspective. The The Sagittarius perspective is not that you are in the maze. Sagittarius perspective is you are above the maze looking down, and you're looking down at yourself in the maze, and look, there I am in the maze. And yes, I'm going to hit some dead ends, but don't worry, I can see that I can easily turn around and trace back my steps and try another way, and if I mess up again, no problem. I see this is a maze, I can turn around, and I see that there is a destination, there is an end in sight. That's the Sagittarius bird's eye view, universal, intuitive, connected to the universe and nature perspective. Gemini's different. Gemini, you're in the maze. You're holding the clock. I gotta get to the end of this maze. And now you face a dead end and there's a wall in front of you. Oh shit, I just walked into a dead end. I gotta retrace my steps now. And you turn around and you're kinda on your own in the maze. That's the Gemini feel. It feels very much like, got these problems to figure out, got time pressure on me, and I can't see the bird's eye point of view. There's too much pressure. There's too much stuff distracting me, keeping me occupied with the challenges that I gotta keep juggling. Oh, I don't have time to see from a bird's eye viewpoint of today. I got all of this stuff to do and no time to do it. And, you know, we just have to understand that this part of our brain is a little bit frustrated and flustered and overheated because Gemini has gotten over-exaggerated in the past. And this is not Gemini's fault. You know, and we're going to talk about how, you know, masculinity being perverted, it's not masculine's fault. We don't need to condemn or berate Gemini. We don't need to condemn or berate Capricorn. That's not the way to handle these things. We do need to take it back to its root essence of what Gemini actually is. And Gemini is the magician. Gemini is consciousness. Gemini is how we communicate with one another. And that's a key point this week, is we need to be very clear with our communication. It's very, very easy while we're all doing the juggling thing, and then we're trying to explain to other people that are also juggling, hey, what are you doing today? Yeah, I got free time from this time to this time. And you know what? It gets very, very easy to get confused, for little mistakes to happen here and here, and then stuff can fall down. Stuff doesn't exactly work the way we want it to. Yeah, the other thing with Sun opposite to Saturn is it can feel like limitations get put down. Like, I got all these things to juggle, and then, here, have another ball. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Let me throw another ball in there. Oh, okay, I see we're doing a circus act today. All right. At least Gemini is the trickster and the joker, so we could try to make a little bit more lighthearted by not taking everything as seriously and kind of laugh at the game of life. You know, it's like when we're in the maze and we're facing the wall, and it's like, oh shit, that's a scary situation if it's a life and death situation. And unfortunately, this is the part that's also been inflated in the past, is that we think it is a life and death situation, and this is also not our faults. It's not our faults for being stressed. It's not our faults for thinking it's a life and death situation when it's not. This is humanity where we find it today, and we, being the souls to try and fix this, are coming in and encountering these issues ourselves, personally, on the individual level. And because we are doing this together, it's super, super important that we are keeping everything out, open, on the surface. Yeah, maybe let people know when we're stressed, not suppress it, so it's going to blow up later. Oh, I've been juggling for 12 days and I'm exhausted now. Oh, I had no idea. You didn't tell me. So let's keep each other on the same page with what's going on with us the best we can. And we can anticipate there being some challenges there, and those challenges are going to take us into a deeper understanding of how I can communicate better, how I can network better, how I can time manage and schedule and use technology and travel around in a better way. These challenges are not losing. These challenges are not failing. These are challenges that encourage creative growth and development. And we can anticipate some of these, you know, dialogues and, you know, conflicts to kind of happen between us and our relationships, with Venus being opposite to Pluto tomorrow. But really what this is about is it's about getting deep with it. You know, where is our communication issues? Where am I feeling oppressed? Where do I feel blocked? Where do I feel like things are unfair? Gemini can do this type of measuring, you know, it doesn't really seem fair. I feel like I'm carrying a lot of weight here. I feel like I'm not over here. And the thing is, we just have to be flexible, try to keep that bird's eye view, understand that we're all juggling, we're all going through mazes right now, and maybe not be so super critical, like it's life or death, black or white. This is where we get endangered in Gemini. To see things all one way or all the other. Either I'm going to get everything done today perfectly, or it's going to be a horrible day. I'm going to mess it up. This is kind of the black and white way that Gemini can see things quite easily, because there is this idea of conceptual perfection. You know, this is what we rationally do. Oh yes, how do I have a good day? I do this at this time, and I do this, and then I enjoy a smoke, and then I go out for the day. It's like hyper-processing, you know, this is what I think a good day is like. But then if we become fixated on what we think a good day is like, we close the door of what a better day could be like. We have to be flexible. We have to go with the flow. We have to be willing to let a ball drop every now and then, and not let that be the end of the day, and not let that stop our juggling act that can be rather enjoyable, so long as we are seeing it as something that's lightweight and fun, and it's not a life or death situation. It's not going to be the end of the world, or things will be okay. Yes, this is a very easy tendency to think when we are so overwhelmed, when there is a propensity for challenge, and when things are speeding up simultaneously. When things speed up, people are just like, uh-oh, not enough time. We're all culturally conditioned to believe there's not enough time. That's unnatural, though. Okay, so we've already been kind of going into it. How did Gemini become unnatural? What is the essence of Gemini actually about? Well, as we explained, it is the dissecting, discerning function of the universe. It also gives us the opportunity to experience ourselves subjectively. Gemini rules friends and relationships and consciousness, because this is how we start to relate to one another. This is how we give feedback. This is how we learn. Gemini is education. It's growing. And of course, Gemini is about tapping into other dimensions. This is what the essence of Gemini is. Mercury is the messenger of the gods. Mercury is the one who builds a bridge between the heavenly realm and the earthly plane. Therefore, if we want to be connected to Sagittarius, the universal truth, being connected to all things, having the bird's eye view where we can trust everything is okay. And that's the key with Sagittarius, is we have to learn to trust. Even when we're in the Gemini maze and we're facing a dead end and it's like, oh shit, we can still trust that this is part of the process. It's a game, it's not life or death, and we can retrace our steps, and it will not be the end of the world to do so. In fact, retracing our steps is necessary in order to get a better understanding of what the maze is all about. What is Gemini all about? What is my thinking all about? And this Mercury retrograde happening through Gemini is the opportunity for us to understand our own mental faculties, our own speaking function, to understand what that really is. What is the mind? What is spoken word? And how is this super, super relevant to me now? So, Mercury turned retrograde on Monday, is going to remain retrograde for 3 weeks. Come June 11th, Mercury will station again, and then turn direct. And it won't be until June 27th that Mercury comes back to the point that Mercury is at right now, stationing on my Mercury, which is why I'm being so crazy right now. Okay? So we have 3 weeks of rewinding. 3 weeks of Mercury descending into the underworld, getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is when we start rewinding, replaying the records. We start going back in time, rethinking our interactions, rethinking our communications, rethinking how we use technology and these themes, and etc. And it's where we get deeper. The mind gets stronger. This is a powerful Gemini season with Mercury retrograde happening simultaneously, because our minds are really strong and powerful. So the most important thing is, yes, our mind is our friend. We don't want to kill our mind or our egos, thinking that that's the spiritual way. That's not a spiritual way. That is suicide. Once you don't have a mind, you don't exist anymore. There is no other. Say goodbye to the world. So, this mind is super important, because our perspective and how we dissect and break apart the universe is what creates our reality. And the way that we see things, the way that we label things, the way we intend to maneuver through things is what determines our reality. So what we are realizing collectively right now is that our own minds have been developed in a way that is not entirely healthy, where these wheels start spinning too fast and it starts focusing so much on the itty little bits and pieces, and we've got to figure it all out on our own. It's up to us to figure out the universe is Gemini. That's where we kind of got a little lost, because it's easy when it's all up to us to break apart, dissect, make sense of the universe, to lose trust that there is a divine plan underneath all this. It's not all up to us. We aren't the only ones that are juggling and thus keeping the planet spinning. There is an underlying nature, and we can trust that nature to carry us where we need to go. We do have to be practical. We do have to schedule our lives. We have to know what time to eat, things like this. But that's exactly the point, isn't it? Is, yes, we can schedule out when the best time to eat is, etc., but we also have intuitive faculties that will also let us know the best time to eat. Guess what that is? It's your stomach. It's going to grumble when you're hungry. So when we over-rationalize, it's like the left brain says, I have to do everything myself. And then it's really easy to freak out, because it's just like, oh shit, I have to schedule, I have to plan, I have to juggle, and I'm doing it all by myself. And that's not exactly true. We have other faculties that are assisting us. We have our right brain. We have intuition. We have feelings coming from our gut that says, oh, now's the time to eat. Yeah? So this is what we want to keep in balance this week. Why you can't go overly Sagittarius. And it's very, very easy to get over Sagittarius just as well. And there are people that are overly Sagittarius that have come in this life to learn Gemini. Because when you're overly Sagittarius, you're sitting in the throne, you see the bird's eye point of view. Ah, yes, all is connected, all is one. There you go. Just do that. Just see from what I'm seeing. Is your life perfect yet? Yeah, and where it got distorted in the past, obviously, is just like, ah, yes, this one line from the spiritual text. Let me repeat this line to everybody. Are you saved? Are you enlightened? You should be. It's the perfect line. No, it's not. It's not the perfect line. You haven't figured out how to communicate with people yet. You haven't learned to take all that wonderful wisdom and seeing that you have and actually be able to effectively reach other people. And so this is when Sagittarius gets a little crusade-y and, oh, well, I'm going to make sure people understand my perspective. No, it's not your job to make people understand your perspective. It's your job to figure out how to put it into words the most clear and comprehensive way, so it's not hard work. You should just be able to speak the way you're seeing things, and other people say, oh yeah, that's how he's seeing things. Cool. Maybe I can share my perspective. Maybe we can shift around our perspectives. Yes, this is the point of language. This is why language got invented. And this presents a lot of difficulty. Because you know what? We don't have a perfect language. We don't have the most descriptive words. Especially when you start getting into spirituality and things get really deep beyond the contemporary left brain developed society. I mean, it gets difficult to express what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, and the challenges and the frustrations that are going on as they personally happen to us. Because it's going to be different from how it happens to everybody else. So, here is our challenge for this week. Pluto opposite to Venus. We're having real serious talks about real emotional things that are going on. Sun opposite to Saturn. There is stuff to figure out. There are little hurdles to jump over. There are authority figures that are coming down, presenting limitations. You have a lack of funds. You have a lack of time. You've only got so many tools to use. We can anticipate some of those challenges happening. But these encourage creative solutions. And the only way we're going to solve these things is to redevelop, to reanalyze, and start figuring out, how do I schedule my time? How do I communicate? How do I break apart and dissect the universe? And how can I do this in a way where I don't feel like I'm having to do everything myself, having to think everything myself? Therefore, we need to help each other through this time. Why don't you sit down and relax? Or why don't you vent? Yeah, that's another great way. Instead of saying, quit worrying, say, oh, you're worrying, I see. Come, let me hear your worries. Let that person output their worries. Blah, blah, blah. This is what my left brain's doing. It's hyperactive. I got all these things to do. So many things to juggle. Oh yeah, yeah. And what else? What else is going on? Yeah. Because your energy holding that space of the quiet person who understands it's going to be okay. There's just a lot of stuff going on. It's a fast-paced time. It's all right. It's still nature. All right. You're holding space for that person to experience what they are experiencing, and you verify and you say it's okay, and that allows them to release it. Oh, it is okay for me to be stressed out and worried. Oh, okay, I thought that I was doing it all wrong because I'm so busy. No, you're not busy. You're a human being. All right? We're all juggling around these days. It's not our jobs to quit being stressed. It is our job to understand where this stress is coming from, get at the root issue, and this comes only through communication, only through verbalizing, only through opening up to our loved ones. So we do have a nice aspect going on this weekend between Mars and asteroid Ceres. Ceres is in Aquarius. Mars is now in Gemini. There's a trine between them. And this gives us the ability to support and nurture one another. Kind of support the underdog, you know. Whoever's feeling really down and freaking out, let's be there for them this week, yeah? And if we are that person, we need to be there for ourselves. We need to reach out for help sometimes, not do everything ourselves, not overburden, over-worry ourselves. Yes, there are options. There are more options than what the world is going to lead us to believe. Yes, we can kind of say this is the overwhelming story of this week. The world will lead us to believe that there are less options than there actually are. And it is our job to remember our soul nature and therefore remain open and flexible to the inconceivable reality that is. The left brain took things and made it way too conceivable than how it actually is. It says, oh, I only got this option, and this option, because that's all that exists in my conceptual understanding. There are more options. There are doors that are opening. This Mercury retrograde going into the underworld, studying how our own brain works, how our own communication works, how our friendships work, going all the way back into the past, all the way back to childhood. This Mercury is going to station in a square to Neptune. It's going to get confused. It's going to start, doors are going to start opening and stuff's going to start pouring in that are new, that are different. That's not the previous landscape that we've already mapped out. It's getting beyond this. It's getting deeper. It's getting more inconceivable. So part of this Mercury retrograde is figuring out how we have shut the door to the inconceivable nature that is. How we can reopen that door and invite spirituality back into our life in such a way that our left brain, our mind, our Mercury, our Hermes, is doing what it essentially and naturally does, which is form a bridge between inconceivable reality and this reality. Okay, that's the point of Gemini. That's the point of Mercury. It's not just the left brain. It's not just technology. You see how impersonal that is? Whenever a sign becomes impersonal, that means it's become separated from its essence. Gemini is not just cold, mechanical, left brain technology. Gemini is all of that, and the map, and how to get in between, and how to travel, and how to communicate. That way we can bridge all of that with the inconceivable reality. So we can create heaven on earth, and not have to escape earth to get to heaven. In order to form that bridge, we must start making our mind our friend. And this is the challenge. It's the challenge for this next month. How can we make our mind our friend? How can we make our thinking, our communicating, our processing, our reprocessing, our re-reprocessing, our re-re-re-reprocessing our friend? Yes, obviously you can pick up on the essence coming from me. I'm super redundant. It's super fast-paced. We get the energy. But that energy is our friend. We can use that energy to create so many creative, fun, enjoyable experiences with one another. Gemini is the sign of friendships. So let's try to remember that this week, in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of differing perspectives, in the midst of different challenges. Let's make all of these things our friend. This is a way of improving and making this mind reconnected with its original essence and nature. To be a servant of the divine, not a trap that keeps you separate from the divine. That is a bullshit assessment of Gemini. Gemini is what keeps you connected to the divine, so long as you can remember the full picture and you don't get lost in all the busy, tiny little details. All right? So wishing all the best to you this week in that endeavor. Hopefully this was not too much overwhelming regurgitation. I apologize if that's the case. I'm a Gemini. Mercury is stationed on my Mercury. All right, so we are doing a sale through June 21st. It is for a free transit readings with your birth chart reading. I'm not giving away free transit readings. I cannot afford to do that. I don't have the time. Gemini left brain, I do not have the time. I'm giving free transit readings with full birth chart readings through June 21st, okay? And this is going to take several months to come around and do your chart, so we do need to be patient. I can't do charts instantly the moment you buy them. There is a waiting line, and this is how my services work right now, as I am this Gemini, trying to juggle all these things, trying to use technology and emails and communication. So it's going to be an adventure, and we're going to see it as something we are excited to do. I'm so excited for this opportunity to find new ways to communicate and to connect with you all. So all the best to you and your beloveds. Namaste.